Welcome to Maritime Destination. Today we have Captain Pradeep Chawla. He is a Managing Director QHSE and Training at Anglo-Eastern Ship Management, Hong Kong. Welcome, Captain Chawla.
Thank you, Kagan. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure that you joined today in the night from Hong Kong. It's almost 10:30. Thank you so much for joining. My first question to you, Captain Chawla, since you are a MD of QHSC, it's about quality, health, safety, environment, and training. Everything almost you cover. So, being focused on the health due to COVID-19, how much quality, safety, and training was compromised due to relaxation and SOP by government and other agencies?
Interesting question. Everything in shipping has got affected, like normal life has got affected by COVID. Let's take it one by one. On the health side, we are very fortunate that so far on our ships, we have not had any major issues with COVID. There has been a bit of an issue because of lack of medical assistance by many ports in the world. The seafarers have had problems, so getting them to, in case of an illness, getting them to a hospital in some countries has been a big problem. In terms of the general health of people, we had adjusted quite a few things in the company by giving instructions as early as February 2020 about what could be done to try and prevent any seafarer from getting COVID. So we published our internal COVID-19 guidelines pretty much in March 2020. And these guidelines were given away to the industry bodies, and a lot of industry associations also had a read through them before making their own guidelines. So we were proactive in that. We did supply extra medicines and a lot of health guidelines to the ships in February and March 2020. So far that has been handled all right. In terms of effect on safety and environment and quality, we realized that this was not going to go away in a hurry, looking at what China was experiencing in February. And we then, in order to ensure that the company maintained safety and efficiency in operations without compromise, we were probably the first company in the world to approach flag states to do remote audits and remote inspections. So we developed a protocol of trying to do internal audits remotely. So this included things like getting videos live streamed from the ships or sent to us as files where the master was lowering the boat, uh, testing the fire pumps and all the usual things that are done in an internal audit. And also through photographs, and then we carried out almost of our ships, practically the entire fleet has VSAT. So we were able to do live interviews like we would do face to face, but over VSAT. We had to learn technology very quickly, and luckily, the things like Skype and Zoom kind of things worked quite well on the VSAT ships. And we started doing that in March, middle of March 2020. In fact, the example of Anglo-Eastern was then followed by many of the port states also. So we were in a pilot project with China PSC to do PSC inspections remotely. So we participated in those things. We also gave our guidelines of what we had made to industry associations. And as you know, the oil majors also now are doing remote audits as part of coping with COVID. So safety, I would say, has not got affected because of COVID. Uh, Efficiency of operations also has not got affected. The seafarers have been extremely wonderful and continue to do their job sincerely and diligently in spite of the extra precautions that they had to take.
Mhm.
So, of course, we had to introduce a lot of procedures so that the stevedores and others do not come in contact with or minimize contact with the seafarers. Uh,
Mhm.
we started putting temperature stations and procedures for masks and uh, personal protective gear for anybody coming into the accommodation again as early as March.
Mhm.
So, with that extra precautions that we had taken, we have been able to keep our ships COVID free, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, on the biggest challenge has been for morale of the crew because of the lack of crew being able to go home due
Mhm.
to the lockdowns in various countries. And as you know, even today,
Mhm.
the crew changes are possible only in very few countries.
True.
And even the countries where it is open right now, like in Europe, they are about to go into lockdowns, and that is going to affect again how crew changes can be affected. So
Mhm.
I would say that it has been quite tough on the seafarers to have their families worried about themselves, like in India, their COVID being widespread. So the families are worried about their husbands, fathers, etc., who are out at sea, and the husbands and fathers and sons and daughters are worried about their parents and people in India or Philippines, etc., where the COVID is spreading quite a lot.
Mhm.
So it's been very challenging times for the seafarers, and I must say that they've been very professional, very diligent, and the world supply chains have not got affected because the seafarers have been working so hard. It's a pity that many countries are not listening to the IMO of giving key worker status to seafarers and to arrange safe corridors for joining and leaving ships, in spite of the push coming from IMO and from other industry associations. We do understand that seafarers are a very small proportion of the population in any country. But without the seafarers doing their jobs, the countries would not get medical help. The masks being transported from one country to the other would not happen. The food supply chain has to remain open. The oil and gas and coal has to keep running. So it's very sad that the attention of the politicians on the key workers of seafarers being key workers has not been much. We
Correct.
are very happy that countries are clapping for doctors and they are, looking after doctors as key workers. But we must not forget that 98% of the world trade is still done by sea, and the hospitals would run out of many things if it was not for the ships still bringing their cargoes in time. That's
Correct.
would be my answer to your first question on quality, health, and safety and environment.
Yeah, but was it compromised or it was as usual?
The cargo deliveries are as usual. The crew changes are not as usual. Attendance to the needs of the seafarers is not happening in many ports.
Hmm.
So seafarers have taken the brunt of all this while keeping the commerce still on.
Still on. Correct.
And they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Okay. Okay. Now, my second question is now way of operation and functioning has changed everywhere, including shipping. Which part you'd like to function in present form, and which part in old format without compromising the quality in future post-COVID?
Interesting. Yes, a lot of things are going to change. The fact that we are not sitting together for this interview and doing it on Skype is one of the changes that is going to remain long term, that there will be more and more use of technology rather than traveling.
True.
Uh, in terms of other things, probably this has made a quick adoption of technology for online training, uh, and for even online seminars. So, in fact, some of the things the technology has proven to be even better than expected, because now we can get to 1,000 people at a time on most of the platforms
True.
like WebEx, Zoom, or all the other Teams, Microsoft Teams, etc. So
Hmm.
that's the benefit of it. The We have been able to do crew seminars throughout the COVID period on by going online. We have been doing training online for the theoretical aspects continuously throughout the COVID times.
Hmm.
But yes, there are certain things which would cannot be done online, because they are, when the learning needs to be done via discussions and via peer-to-peer interaction, the online platforms are not as good, because partly because sometimes the technology fails you, because so you might have to switch off cameras in order to have the audio going properly in some parts of the world.
Hmm.
Also, you miss certain things, uh, where the teacher can kind of make out from the face of the student that is he absorbing it or not.
True.
Uh, that becomes a lot more difficult, because you are not able to look at all 24 people at the same time. On most of these platforms, they come as little strips, and one to one it's much easier.
Hmm.
I think what is going to happen is that there will be blended learning in the future. There will be more use of online platforms, but it's not going to, throw away classrooms. It's not like all the classrooms in the world are going to be shut down.
True.
Also, things like simulations, hands-on training, like opening an engine unit, those kind of things. Of course, you still need the laboratories, you still need the workshops and the simulators. We have been doing some ship handling training on cloud simulation. Both we use ARI in India, and we use Vatsala Transas simulation also. Both the companies have done extremely well, uh, especially doing this very quickly. I mean, of course, they see a business opportunity here, and hence they invested into this technology. And it has helped in the sense that at least we can run some assessment, some kind of familiarity with disk and those kind of courses can be done online and with this cloud simulation thing. Uh, we are eagerly waiting for things to get better, because things like opening a purifier, we need to still get those kind of trainings done. Uh, Learning to do proper welding cannot really be done online.
Correct.
So
Correct. Correct.
we are waiting for that to happen. So some of the things in training would change. Um, when it comes to other things, again, interaction between companies, between different trade associations, I think will also change. That instead of, let's say, having 2 or 3 meetings in a year, we will probably have one meeting in a year face to face, and the other two might be online. One of the problems with online meetings is that span of attention of human beings on cameras is a little lower than interaction with each other. Some of the other things that go missing is the personal touch, the little jokes that happen in coffee time, in a meeting, in a serious meeting. When it's online, everybody tends to be kind of more serious, and maybe because the wife might be behind in the same. So people are a little bit more careful about it, and you lose a little bit of that, the dinner afterwards and after a meeting where you discuss stories about your sailing days or you talk about social things. That goes
True.
missing in this new world of only being online. So yeah, there is going to be many changes. Okay, you were talking about office spaces. People will be
Yes.
saying, why do we need to have so many people? Again, I think each company will decide what's good for them, and in places where there are, let's say, more expensive offices, I'm sure there will be some adjustments to that, that non-essential staff may be reduced, and or more work from home policies will come in. Uh, of course, it's going to take some time for that to happen. Maybe, because right now everybody's mind is on COVID and prevention of uh, problems for their businesses. And once it settles down, when the researchers will tell you about whether the productivity is better or worse, there are plenty of people who are doing experiments right now about productivity on for working from home versus productivity in the office. Uh, there will be a business case to try and reduce things, but there will also be a business case not to reduce, because already some studies are showing that the productivity from home depends, like one would expect, a lot on the behavioral competency of the individuals involved. So the people who are very serious about their work, they follow the same strict routine that they would follow in an office. So if office starts at 9 o'clock, they will be on their desk in the home computer at 9 o'clock, and they will not take a break uh, when it is not break time. But equally, there will be stories about some workers who are the typical ones that you find around the coffee machine in the office, that even at home they are taking bigger breaks and not producing as much work. So I personally feel that it's more to do with behavioral competencies of the people and their attitude to work, rather than the part about whether they are working from home or whether they are working in the office. I mean, we all know about employees in offices who can look at a screen for 4 hours and produce nothing in 4 hours, and those who will be sitting at home and still producing a lot of work.
True.
Uh,
True. True. True.
there will be changes.
Correct. Now, my third question, Captain Chawla, how do you see the future of shipping from the perspective of ship owners, ship management companies, and the training institutes?
Okay, ship owners, I don't think I can comment much because I don't work in a ship owning or company, but I would say that trade is not going to reduce. So the business of ship owning and carrying cargoes is not going to change because of COVID or post COVID. The supply chains in the economies might change a little bit, where countries may want to be more self reliant because they have seen the problems during COVID. So trade patterns may change a little bit. Some countries will want to be more self-reliant. I mean, we do see, being in Hong Kong, we do see China is working a lot towards investments to try and become more self-dependent rather than on dependent on supply chains from outside. So that's how I feel that some change will happen in the trade patterns. They may not be very immediate. In terms of ship management, I think the trend of digitalization of various functions will be speeding up, because a lot of technology platforms have improved a lot. Uh, as we always say, right, necessity is the mother of invention. So all the platforms have improved, technologies have improved. Uh, Ships will get better and better internet facilities once the more and more satellites go up in the air. So the ships will get more integrated into the office. There will be a lot of new applications which will help to improve safety and help to improve efficiency. We have embarked on a big digitalization project actually just a year and a half before COVID struck. So we have partnered with Watsala in with their product called Fleet Operation Solutions (FOS). We've rolled it out on more than half the fleet already, and so these kind of new applications which help to improve safety and efficiency. I think there will be more and more softwares like that coming out in the shipping industry, and a lot more people willing to adopt to new technology uh, after this experience of not traveling, not being able to do certain things in the same way. So I think there will be more acceptance to technology adoption, which is going to be one of the good benefits that is going to come out of this whole unfortunate events of life. In terms of training, like I said before, more and more online stuff and blended learning will happen. Uh, it probably also increases the focus on training, uh, because when you are unable to send a vessel manager or a marine superintendent to the ship, you are relying more and more on the seafarers without external help. Radio technicians have not been able to go on board. So the skills for taking care of the ship without external help has actually improved during COVID times. So things like repairs, which generally would have needed the help of a technician, quite often now are achieved by the crew by uh, carefully reading their manuals, and with a little bit of remote help over the phone or over a video call, the seafarers have actually been doing managing their ships even better during the COVID times. So that is the silver lining, that the skills are improving, and hence this is teaching us that we must focus on the skills of the seafarers even more uh, post COVID, because the situation may last few more months, and also it may be that the expectations will also change again, that a lot of things can be done by the crew.
Do you see this period as a mental preparation for autonomous ship also?
It has certainly given more impetus to research on semi-autonomous and autonomous ships. I think on this topic, my views are that we are probably, there is a bit of a overhype in the industry about autonomous shipping, and the definition of what do we mean by autonomous shipping is kind of not so commonly understood. So what is very likely to happen, that yes, like the experimental ships that are already around, there will be more smaller ships in restricted areas which will become autonomous. The technology is moving quickly, but deep sea, open ocean autonomous shipping is still quite far away. If you go on the Wikipedia, you will find out that the first autonomous car, which a driverless car actually, did a trip from east coast of US to the west coast in 1985.
Oh,
Okay, so we are in 2020, and we still don't have driverless cars in practically 97% of the world. There are very few cities who are allowing them, and even those so far have been limited use. Um, so if it's similarly in our industry, it is going to take 20 to 40 years, anywhere in between, before it starts to become common. What is likely to happen there is that more automation will come on the ships, the reliability of engines and equipment will improve with technology, And the first stage of that would be that, like the engine room can be unmanned at night, similarly, the bridge may be allowed to be unmanned with certain conditions. So stage one is likely to be the computer is navigating your ship in open sea passage after, let's say, you're 200 miles from the coast and right up to reaching the other end of the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean, 200 miles from land again, you could be on a autonomous mode. So, but the regulators are likely to say, let's start with just letting the computer do it, and the duty officer still needs to be on the bridge. The next stage could be that, okay, the duty officer need not be on the bridge, but there will be an automatic alarm system in his cabin so that he can rush up, just like the Indian UMS regulations. And that will end up with probably reducing one more or two more people on the ships. And initially, it will be allowed only in daytime, and then as the confidence grows, it will be allowed in nighttime. And over a period of 20 years, you may find that the common practice becomes that from in the open sea, we don't need to have anybody on the bridge. Uh, and maybe then another 20, 30 years, we will have where we reach what is generally the more, uh, let's say, the hyped version of autonomous shipping, all ships in the world completely without people. Maybe for another 30, 40 years, we may be looking at that. Look, the technology is available. I mean, you have drones now all over the world being utilized in the military space. You do
Correct.
have small naval boats being used uh, in the autonomous mode. So it's not just the technology that needs to change, it's also the mindset, it's also the regulations. So would the people of the city of New York be willing to take an LNG or LPG ship coming in without any human beings into their port? I don't think that mindset is there right now.
True.
Once people are used to seeing cars on their streets without drivers, uh, then slowly the acceptance will come. Today, when you go into Hong Kong port or airport or many other airports in the world, you do sit in a train without a driver, right? But
Correct.
you're happy to do that in the limited tunnel that has been constructed in the airport. You're willing to take risk your life in that because you feel it's a closed system, and yes, it can run driverless. And you hope that there is some control station that is watching that train. Similarly, that confidence for it to come will come in restricted areas. So maybe if you're crossing a small river, you're okay with sitting on a ferry which doesn't have a driver because you know it's a short distance across and you might start to use that happily. But on a oil tanker bringing in maybe take a lot longer time. So we have to remain realistic about what is going to be achieved in what time frame.
Captain Chawla, my last question is about since QHSE is about environment also. So how you correlate this COVID-19 and sulfur cap 2020?
Okay, I don't think they can be correlated to each other. COVID-19 doesn't affect sulfur 2020 and sulfur 2020 doesn't affect COVID. But they are two separate things altogether. But from the environment viewpoint, sulfur 2020, I think, is one of the successful strategies of IMO that has worked. The experience is that there were these wild guesses about cost of fuel. There won't be available, fuel won't be available, and ships will stop. Uh, hasn't happened, and now the period is well over. We are 10 months into the regulation, and there has been no stoppages of any ships around in the world. The experience with scrubbers has been mixed, which means that there are issues with scrubbers on a lot of the brands of scrubbers. Uh, it did not become like a common thing on all the ships, and I think now there is even lesser chances going forward that there will be widespread interest in scrubbers. In terms of affecting the planet, I think the shipping industry has done a good job with Sulfur 2020. And I think the regulations are going to go at a fast pace further on. And dual fuel engines, LNG as a fuel, LPG as a fuel, ammonia, hydrogen, everything is on the table. Again, I'm not an environmental expert, but I would say in the short period, in the next 10 to 20 years, LNG fueled ships will become much more common. There is a lot of discussions about hydrogen also, but I'm not an expert on it to say whether that is the right or the wrong kind of technology. I think there will be more interest in batteries, or because that looks like a very clean fuel for everything. I don't know how far away is that in terms of technology. Uh, and I think going into maybe even further, I think wind and waves as a means of powering ships is likely to come up with better results than a piece of sail on a mast in the ancient days. I think the next era of using wind and waves is going to be a very sophisticated technology driven solution. Again, since I don't know so much about it, all I can say that from whatever I read, I think technology is moving quickly into finding solutions. And I think the shipping industry is very committed to having clean solutions coming up. Uh, yes, they need to make business sense for the ship owners. But I also think that the shift is going to be quicker also because the young generation of people believe in uh, improving the condition of the planet, and hence there will be political pressure in every country to go more clean with the fuels. And whenever there is political pressure in anything, things do move faster, more money gets allocated. And we are seeing that happening around the world, that more and more money is being allocated to becoming green for the whole planet, which is good.
In the end, anything else you'd like to add, Captain Chawla, if I have not asked?
No, I would just like to probably repeat what I said in the early segment. All industry associations, all journalists, all programs in shipping should reach out to the governments in each country with one single message: seafarers are key workers and they deserve to go home in time, and they should not be needing to be imprisoned on ships to keep the supply chains of the world open. Just imagine if all shipping was to stop for a week.
True.
Food will run out, medicines will run out, oil and gas will run out, heating the homes will run out. Why do the people in power not understand that seafarers deserve to be treated better, and we should be doing things to get them home in time like we do for all the key workers in the world?
Thank you so much, Captain Chawla. Thank you so much for sparing the time. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Most welcome.